So, this is something that I think is very important going forward, and something that I'm kind of nervous about as I grow up because there's always this fine line that you have to walk with, being a teacher or a mentor or a parent, where um, when you're teaching someone how to do something, you have to be helpful enough to show them what they need to do, but not too helpful that you hinder them and do everything for them, so that they don't actually learn and that they don't have that capability. What I wrote down for this one is um, an unhardened seedling thrives until it's taken outdoors. And if you don't know, in the gardening world, basically, what you can do, you don't have to do it, but what you can do is you can plant your seeds indoors in little, tiny little seed, I can't think of the word, but you have tiny little slots for all your seeds, and you plant like a couple seeds in each one, and pretty much what you're supposed to do is you're trying to optimize your um, your crops by getting them started in healthy conditions, and then once they've thrived and they've grown up, then you can put them outdoors where, since they've already got a they've already got kind of started and whatever, it's easier for them to grow, and they grow faster and they grow stronger, and that's the idea. But the problem is that if you plant your seeds in the soil, but you don't you plant them and you nurture them, and say you're watering them regularly, you're making sure they get plenty of sunlight, you're fertilizing them, whatever. But then you go from giving them all of this help and care and putting them in a situation where they don't have to deal with pests, they don't have to deal with harsh winds or just any kind of weather, they don't have to deal with cold. They're living in a perfect conditions, and if you take them from these perfect conditions and you put them right outside into your garden or something, they're unlikely to do well, because without having wind blowing against them, they don't grow firm like stems or stalks, and they get blown right over and they die. And if you don't kind of give them like exposure to sun slowly and surely and gently, like if you're growing them on a grow light and then you expose them to the actual sun and they sit in the sun all day, they bake and they die, and they're not prepared for it. And you put them outside and then they're not getting water as regularly as they used to be, then they shrivel up and they die. So there's all these ways that they looked great, but as soon as you put them outdoors where the real world is, they suffer and then they die quickly. And I think the problem is a lot of parents, there's the term helicopter parents, have kind of babied their kids because they want the best for them and they want to give them everything they possibly can. But the problem is that they take care of them as much as possible up until the very end, and then they let them out into the world, but they're not prepared for it. And I think this is kind of a hard line to walk, because you don't want to be completely impassive and beat your children if they misbehave, but you also want to have that baseline where it's like, listen, this is the real world, and this is what you're going to have to do, and you got to prepare them. And so a little bit of stress applied beforehand, before it matters. You kind of apply stress. Say you're working out, right? You don't work yourself until failure and then go beyond it. No, you do sets of reps, you take a break, you let muscles rest a little bit, and you hit some more. If all you do is, go till failure with no rest in between, you're going to burn yourself out, or you're going to injure yourself. or you're just gonna not really get the gains that you're looking for. Applying that stress is what promotes the growth. Getting put into a new situation is like, oh, I can't do that. I don't know how to do it. The reality is that no one knows how to do anything until they do. So, one thing I can say, not necessarily for, people that are parents out there, but someone that is, in a situation where they're not really sure how to take the next step. They're not confident. They don't know how to do that. The reality is that you're never going to be confident in it. You're never going to be perfect at it on the first try. Failure is good in the sense that if you make a mistake, then you know what not to do, and then you can try again. And the more mistakes you make, the more likely you are to succeed, because the more you know what not to do. And when you know everything that you shouldn't do, then you're doing it correct. So, failure is not necessarily something that should be, feared, and, the unknown is not something necessarily that you should avoid, because there's a lot to be learned from kind of taking that step into unfamiliar territory. And I'm not saying to, go diving headfirst into the shallow end. You don't but, dipping your toes in the water, that's fine. But pretty much what I'm trying to say here is, you can't, you'll never be ready to do anything if you always take the easy route and the safe route. You'll never be able to do anything, and you'll always be kind of waiting until someone else does it for you, or something along those lines. At some point, you're going to have to take the initiative. And, when it comes to, teaching someone or training someone, allow them room to figure it out. Be there if they need the assistance, but don't over assist. Allow them to figure things out. Allow them to struggle a little bit and work through it. If they're overwhelmed and they can't handle it, then that's when you step in and you guide, but you don't completely take over, because if you completely take over, then all of a sudden everything that you've been working on is lost. You give instruction, and you reassess, you explain, you show them what they did wrong, you show them what they need to do instead, and then you let them try again. If you say, oh yeah, well, you didn't do it, but this is how it's done, and then you do it, they have not really taken anything away from that experience. And, it's all done in good intentions. It's all done to be helpful, but in the long run, it's going to hurt. So, yeah. Peace out.